there, Tracy here for Love from Lizzie. In today's video, we are going to make these 3 cards using the Love from Lizzie March 2025 card kit, Bugs and Kisses. Let's go ahead and jump in. Okay, so my first card, I'm going to be using some of the Bugs and Kisses 6x6 papers, the stamps, and the ephemera all in the kit, and the royal purple cardstock, which also comes in the kit. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to trim down this cardstock, and I'm making a Funfold card here. So I'm going to trim this down to 5.5, and then I'm going to use a different trimmer, and I'm going to trim that piece down to 8 1/4. So my other trimmer doesn't go that far. So I'll pull this down to 8 1/4, make sure it's all nice and even on there, and then use the blade to trim it off. And then I'm also going to score that on one side. I'm going to score it at 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, and 4 inches. Now this is not my design. This is a design I learned from Simply Stamping. And I thought it was such a fun design, and it would go so great with this card kit. So just scoring at 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches, and 4 inches. Making sure I get that as even as I possibly can. I have such a wiggly hand sometimes. Sometimes it's difficult. And I'm doing this part in real time just so that, you know, you can kind of watch what I'm doing here. Now I'm going to take my ruler, and I'm going to measure from the top down to 2 3/4 inches and just make a mark. And then I'm going to trim off from that mark to the top, to the very last score line at the top, just by lining it up here in my trimmer. Get it lined up best I can, and just flip that off of there, and that piece is done. We're going to use this piece too, so don't do anything with that. So we're going to cut that down to 4 3/4. Okay, we'll move that strip aside, save it for later. And then I'm going to trim that down, that piece down to 3.5. And then I'm going to take the second piece, and I'm going to trim that down to 4 by 2 3/4. I've got all the pieces I need for the card base itself. So set those aside for a moment, and then I'm just going to accordion fold, just making sure that the bottom edges are even. And use my bone folder to burnish that down nice and tight. This is such a neat little card design. I absolutely love it because you can use so much of your stuff on it and design it in so many different ways. All right, so there we've got our design. Now I'm going to take the larger piece, and I'm just going to glue it right down onto that fold, just making sure that the bottom edge is even. So I'll add some liquid glue to the fold there. Try and hold it as steady as I can. Then I'll take that piece of card and I'll lay it in there. Make sure it's even along the bottom edge. Make sure the other edge can fold down still. And then just kind of burnish that down. Make sure it's good and stuck down. And then we're going to take the other piece that we cut, and we're going to glue it to the front flap just like that. So super, super easy and really cute card. And it, of course, ends up being A2 sized. So just add some liquid glue and glue that thing down, making sure that it's nice and even on either side. And now you can do your mats and layers however you want to do them. Okay, I've got that piece ready. Now I'm going to take this butterfly piece from the 6x6 Bugs and Kisses paper pad, and I'm going to trim that down about 1/4 inch less than the original, which is the center piece. So I want my center piece to be pattern paper. And I'm just going to glue that directly down to this center panel. Do the best I can to get it on there as straight as I possibly can. And then just burnish it down. There we go. Alright, so now I have some just white, regular white cardstock, and I'm going to trim that down to 4 by 5 1/4. But I do want a matte layer for that, so I'm going to grab the emerald mirror cardstock, and I'm going to trim that down to just a little under 5 1/2 by a little under 4 1/4, because it's going to be my matte layer, and I'll use the other piece for my front matte layer. And I'll go ahead and glue my white paper down to it, just so we have a little added shine to our card. And just kind of make sure all the edges are even. And I want a very thin border, so I'm gluing it down really thin on 2 sides, and then I'll trim the other 2 sides off. And there's no measurement there, it's just me and my eyeballs. And I'm going to glue that directly down to the back layer. And that's where I'm going to do my stamping later. Okay, get that glued down. And I mean, you could decorate those inside layers too if you wanted to, but you don't want the card to get too thick. So I've got this piece of mirror cardstock. This is the leftover. And I'm going to trim that down to 1/4 inch smaller than the original measurement. So 3 3/4 by 2 1/2. And then I'll trim this down to 2 1/4 by 3 1/2. And those will fit nicely directly onto the very front panel. So just add some liquid glue. Add that down, and I'm okay with the size of the border on that one. And then I'll glue that down to the front panel. Now all we have left to do is our decorating. Get that on there as straight as I possibly can. Isn't that a fun card? Alright, so I'm going to use one of these cut-aparts, and I'm going to actually fussy cut the little rectangular one. So I'm just rough cutting it out, and then I'll fussy cut all around it. And just remember when you're fussy cutting, and I am leaving a bit of a border, to try and remember to move your paper with your left hand and keep your scissors as straight as possible. Well, I keep mine off to an angle, but you know what I mean. You're not really moving your right hand or your dominant hand at all. You might be left-handed, so I better not say right hand, but for me, it's my right hand. I'm moving the paper and just kind of following along, and I'm not being particular that it's perfect. I think a lot of us are hard on ourselves and expect perfection, and when we don't get it, we give up. But you just have to keep practicing when it comes to fussy cutting. I enjoy fussy cutting, and I know lots of people don't, and that's okay. I love you anyway. So I'm going to pop this piece up on just a thin piece of foam tape. I'll grab a piece out, cut it off, and this is kind of how I function with my foam tape. And I'll pull that backer off. I'm just going to tape that directly down onto the front, just like so. And now I'm going to stamp my sentiment. I'm going to grab a scrap of paper here. And I'm going to choose, I think, to my love bug. There we go. I'm just going to stamp that out on some white cardstock. And I'm going to use this pinkish color. I almost never use black unless there's black elsewhere in the card a lot. I like to use my colored ink. So I'll go ahead and trim that out with my trimmer. But I'm going to go ahead and stamp the inside, and I'm going to hand stamp that. And I could have stamped it beforehand, but I wanted to make sure that it's hidden. So I'm going to use that same pink ink, and I think that's Heather or something. And I'm just going to make sure that my stamping is underneath the line of the second layer so that it stays hidden. So Sending Bugs and Kisses. And then we'll go ahead and trim this piece out, and I'm just going to trim it into a rectangle, and then I will mat it on some of our leftover purple paper. Just get it trimmed as close as possible to the edges. So I don't want it too humongous. And then I'll just glue that down to the purple piece and trim off the excess. That's kind of how I roll, versus trying to get exact sizes, because there isn't. I mean, maybe there is, but not in my book. So I've got to my love bug, and then I'll just trim those off, and I'll have a matted sentiment here. All right, let's finish putting this card together. I'm going to put that a little bit catty corner. Let's see if I can find my tape, my foam tape. There it is. Here's that excess piece, and I'll just take a little piece of that and plop it down on there. Peel the backer off and just put it on there a little bit catty corner. And then I'm going to grab a couple of the pieces of ephemera from the Bugs and Kisses and decide where I'm going to put things. Let me see, I think I'm going to put the dragonfly straight down. Let's see, let's grab another little flower. I'm going to tuck that up underneath the ephemera piece that I laid down first. And then I think I'll grab another little flower, try and decide where I want to put it. I think I'll put it right there. I think I'll just pop that up on a little foam circle. There we go. Now, one final touch here, and because I want to use as much of the kit as humanly possible, I've got this iridescent, and this is the violet colored ribbon, and I'm just cutting little tails on that, and I'm going to kind of bunch it up, so to speak, and get it to stick down right there. In a perfect world, you would sew that together, but no. I don't have time for that right now. So I'm just going to use a sticky dot and just kind of stick it down best I can. And then I'll use another piece of the ephemera, this little butterfly, to kind of make sure that it stays fastened down. So anything that sticks out over that is fine. So I'll use a couple more of these little sticky dot things. Listen, I fight with those. And I'm just going to place it right about here. And let's see if I like that placement. No, not really. I kind of want it scooted up a little bit. So I'm just going to carefully pull that off of there. Luckily, that stuff pulls off easily. There we go. I'm happy with that. And there's our first card, Sending Bugs and Kisses. Isn't that adorable? I just love that. All right, on to my second card. I'm going to be using my little wheel here and some of the stamps from the Bugs and Kisses. And I am speeding through this, but it's super easy to do if you have one of these. You just keep turning it a click. And I'm first stamping down the little flowers, and then I'm going to go for the leaves. So I'm kind of making a mandala wreath type thing. And you can see how quickly this goes. Of course, I have it sped up because, you know, it's pretty repetitive, but I did want you to see the stamping process. So I'll pick another leaf here and decide how I want that leaf to sit. I think I want it to sit just like that. So the same process again. And I'm going to be coloring and fussy cutting this out. So I'll just keep going around, and then I'm going to grab my final leaf, which is this one, turning the other way, and just position it kind of where I want it. I'm not too worried about the stems. I'm just not. So we've got our little mandala pattern there. And then I'll clean my stamp off, and then I want to stamp out this little moth. So I'm just going to grab another piece of alcohol marker friendly paper, and I'm just going to lay it right there. I'm not doing any spinning or anything, but since I have this platform out, I'm just going to go ahead and use it. Put my stamp back, and then I'm going to color these. So I started to color them on camera, but I decided that it would make this video way too long. But I am using my Ohuhu markers, and I grabbed the wrong ones, I think. Yep. In the set, there are R's and there are RVs. I had grabbed the RVs, and I wanted the R's, so R270 and R250, I think. And I'm going to color in each of the little flowers, and I'll just do one of them on camera, and then I'm going to do the rest off camera because, well, it took me a little while, I have to be honest, but I love it, so it was worth the time. So I'm just going to use the lighter of the kind of mauve pink color that sort of goes with that pattern paper that you're seeing there to the left-hand side. And then I'll just use the dark end to kind of do the darker spots. So just the line and just around the center. And then I end up doing the outside lines as well with that one. And it's even kind of hard to see me doing that because my hand's in the way. But basically, I'm trying to make this mandala in the same color range as the pattern paper that I'm going to use for the background. And so I'm going to grab the Y8 here. Make sure I grab the right end, and I'm going to fill in the little center. And then I'll grab this one. You make sure I have the right end and just add a little bit of darker just around the side there. And that's how I'm coloring all of the flowers. And next thing you'll see is the coloring done. And then I've filled in my mandala and the outside edges as well as the outside edge of my little bug and fussy cut them out. So now I want to add some more interest. So I'm going to take my embossing pen, and in hindsight, I wish I had been able to see better because some of these just didn't really go on as nicely as I wish they would. But it is what it is. We send the card off, we do the card, it is a handmade card. So I'm adding this gold sparkly embossing powder, and then I'm going to just take and do some little random spots on my little mandala to add a little bit of sparkle to that as well. And then secondly, had I realized, I wasn't paying attention, but the embellishment that I'm going to use, the sentiment is silver. I didn't even realize it, but that's okay. We're gonna roll with it anyway. Okay, and then I'll go ahead and heat emboss all of these. And so, you know, when I'm looking at it there, it looks fine, but once it gets embossed, I didn't get enough embossing powder because I couldn't see what I was doing. I'm a blind person. I'm not, but I can't see very well either. So I'll go ahead and heat these up, and you'll see them come to life as soon as that heat gun gets hot enough. And they're just going to add a little bit of extra shine to that little background mandala piece. Okay, that one's done, and let's do the little moth. And that's that. We've got our gold. See, there's a spot that I missed there. I could probably go back over it, but I end up just using my gold pen. So now let's go ahead and put this card together. So I'm going to cut this piece down to 4 by 5 1/4. That's going to be my base layer. And then I'm going to grab a piece of blue cardstock or a blue card base, and because it goes nicely with the blue on the little lanterns. And I'm just going to stick this piece down with the liquid glue. See how that's off there? I'm just going to fix it by just trimming the whole thing down. I just can't do off like that. There we go. I must have cut this one ages ago because it's gotten a little beat up. So trimming it off will help clean that up. Okay, and then I'll pop up my little mandala piece. And I'm just going to use my same 1mm foam tape. Getting low on this stuff, going to have to go shopping pretty soon. I don't want it popped up too high, but I do want it popped up a little bit. So that's going to pop up right there. Try and get these backers off. And I'll add a little bit of liquid glue for some wiggle room. Turns out I didn't really end up adding enough, but that's okay. See, I'm trying to move it, but nope, it's stuck down. Gonna have to live with it. And then I'm going to grab one of these little toppers. It says with love, and see what I mean? It's silver. But I'm going to use it on my card anyway. First, I'm going to pop up my little moth. I'm just going to use some foam strips. Get him popped up. Make sure I've got plenty on there. One little tiny bit more. And pick it up. And let's see now, how do I want this to go? I'm just trying to decide how I want this to go on the card. I think I'm going to have him going just a little bit catty corner there. So I'll use some liquid glue to get this stuck down. And I've got my with love, but I think I want to just kind of add a little bit of that kind of a lighter yellow here. So I'm just going to go around the edges of it with this, well, it's actually more of a medium yellow ink. And then I'll just pull the backer off and stick that down. Add a little liquid glue so I have wiggle room, and kind of tuck it slightly up under the little Mr. Moth. And see, even though it's silver, it still looks fabulous. So you see that spot right there that I missed with my embossing powder. I'm just going to use my Deco Art gold pen to kind of fill that in. And it works just fine. There we go. I think I'll add some extra little dots here, just for a little bit more interest, including in and around that little topper, that love topper with the silver foil, which comes in the kit, by the way. And there's the second card done. All right, moving on to our third card. So here I'm going to use the wax melt, and the first one I did was a fail. So I'm doing a second one, and I could have done better. I just don't have the patience to wait for that wax to melt. You need, quite a big glob of it, but it does melt very nicely and stays hot, which is nice. I've used the bead types, and first of all, they took forever to melt, and second of all, they didn't pour out very nicely. This one did fine, but the operator didn't do so great. So I'm just going to let that cool, and then I'm going to pull it off, and I'm just going to leave it organic like it is as far as the shape goes. I'm not going to freak out and say, oh, I hate it, let's do it again, because this is the second time. So I'm just taking the silver Deco pen and coloring in on the raised parts, on the little moon, the stars, and little trees. And so that's done. And this is a super quick and easy card. So I'm going to trim this piece down, and I'm going to actually trim it to a full card front size, to 5.5 by 4 1/4, and stick that directly down to a card base. So I'll grab a card base, and I think I'm going to go, but before I do that, I'm going to use some of these strips, and I'm going to use the silver ones. And of course, I'll have everything listed in the description box below. But I want this to kind of go, I want some strips down the middle. So I'm going to take my ruler, and I'm going to measure to 2 1/8, because my card is 4 1/4. And I'm just going to make a little mark on the top and on the bottom so that I have a guideline. And I'm just using the silver pen because it's what's next to me. And then I'll grab one of these little pinstripes. And I'm looking here for my tweezers. So I give up on trying to find my tweezers. I'll find them later. They're buried here somewhere. So I'm going to grab one of these stripes, and I end up getting 2 or 3. This is why I need tweezers, friends. I have big old hands. So I'm going to lay this strip between the two lines that I made, and then I'm going to eyeball two more strips, and there's two stuck together here, so I set that one aside. And I'm just going to eyeball another strip, so it's about, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch away, and then I'm going to do one on the other side. And then I'll just fold those over. There, I'm happy with those. Now I'll grab a card base, and I think I'm going to grab a navy blue one. Not that it matters, because you're not going to really see it until you open the card. But if you do a dark card base, you do need to kind of put a white matte layer on the inside, or a light colored matte layer, so that you can write your sentiment. I'm not going to worry about the inside at this point. So I'm just going to glue this directly down to that card base. Just get plenty of liquid glue down on here. I'm going to open this out, if I can grab it, and open it up, and then lay this down so I get it on there nice and straight. Okay, good. All right, now that we have that down, we can move these strips aside, and I'm going to pop up this beautiful piece of large ephemera that comes in the Bugs and Kisses ephemera. And it coordinates nicely with the lanterns. I love, love, love these lanterns and moths and butterflies and everything. And I'm just going to take some 2mm foam tape and just tape it across there. I'm going to get plenty of tape this time, so that it's, doesn't get saggy in the mail or something like that. Just push down. Boy, I've gotten some pretty destroyed cards from friends, and I know they work so hard on them. So we'll just get our strips down. In a case like that, if you were worried about that happening, you could use a full piece of foam, or you could use layers of paper. But the paper is going to make the card heavy, so there's that to think about. And I'm just going to center this on there so that the line of the lantern matches up with the lines of the silver pinstripes that I added. And now I've got my little wax seal here, and I'm going to grab the white iridescent ribbon and just cut a small piece off of it. And I'm going to fold that. I want that to be almost like a bow, almost. I don't know. You'll see what I'm trying to do here. And I'm going to use a sticky dot to stick that piece down. So at first I think I want to do the bow in the just direction that you just saw me do, but I changed my mind later, and you'll see what I end up doing to fix that. So I'll bunch this up and then just lay it down in there. And I just decide I'm not crazy about the way that looks. I want those pieces to go down. And this is not wired ribbon, so it's not going to bend the way you want it to and stay. So I'm going to grab another sticky dot, and I'm going to stick it right there in the center. And those are going to be covered by the wax seal. And then I'm just going to fold the pieces over so that they fold down the way I want them to. Fiddle with it a little bit, because I also need to kind of make sure that it's sitting flat enough so that when I put my wax seal on there, it's not all bumped up. So I'll just kind of adjust those the way I need them, and then I'm going to grab more of these sticky dots and lay them right on the wax seal. And they stick nicely to it, so that's a good thing. They stick nicely to your finger too if you don't keep it out of the way. And I just want to make sure I get plenty on here so that this thing doesn't move on me. Now I'm fighting because I know there's one down there. Sometimes you miss them when they're on a roll like that. And that one's kind of stuck. Get off there. Get where you need to be. And there. That's what I want. So just lay it down there. I'm loving the way this is looking so far. And then let's see, what else do I want to do to this card? You know what? I think I want to add some of that butterfly border. So these little butterflies, this is really cool. You get a lot for what you're getting because you get a border strip, but you also get the middles of the butterflies, and I'm going to be using their middles. Let's see if I can pull them out of here. And here's where I absolutely must have my tweezers. So, found them. Yay! And I'm just going to start grabbing little butterflies off of here and laying them down. Just at random spots. I'm going to lay some on the silver lines. Isn't that fun? And then you still get that whole border piece. And you can fill it in. If you laid it down on a card, you could fill it in with, I don't know, some stickles or nothing, and it's beautiful. Oops, that one went flying on me. Let's turn it and lay that down here on this silver strip. And let's grab another and start. I think I want him right here on my wax seal. Hopefully he stays stuck. If he doesn't, it's not the end of the world. And then I'm just going to grab some more butterflies and put them on, just to add that extra sparkle and shine. Yeah, I dropped one somewhere. It's stuck to me somewhere probably. So they're very, very delicate, and that's what I love about them. Let's do another here. I could go crazy with these and put them all on the same card. But what a clever idea Lizi came up with. There we go. Make sure that's good and stuck down. And there's my third card. And I love it. Just love, love, love that lantern. So gorgeous. All right, so here's a recap. There's card number 3. Here's card number 2 with the mandala circular stamping. And I want to add some of those butterflies to this one too. Remember I said these are so pretty? I'm going to add a couple to the topper piece. And I think I'll add a couple flying right over top of that moth. Whoops, another one popped off on me here. Let's get one, I don't know, right there. And they're very, very small, so no bigger than a sequin if you were going to put sequins on, but nice and flat. Okay, I'm done with those butterflies now. We added that little extra, and then we've got our first card, which was this fun little trifold. Sending bugs and kisses to my love bug. Well, I hope you like these cards, friends, and if you do, please give us a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe if you're not already subscribed to our channel. You will see everything made that I use to make these cards from Love from Lizi down in the description box below. Thank you so much for stopping by, and now here's some still images to look at until the video's over. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.